I hope no one's planning to name their children Helene. The Hurricane Helene has come and washed the Mets Braves series away, and it puts the Mets in a very difficult spot here down the stretch. 3 in Milwaukee, potentially now a doubleheader on Monday. And I have some thoughts about what Major League Baseball, the Atlanta Braves, and the Hurricane, of course, have done to hurt the New York Mets down the stretch. And we'll do that with our buddy, Subway to Shea podcast host, Anthony Rivera, as we look ahead to the final stretch of the Mets season. Will they get in or will they not? We will find out. It's all coming up next on the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to the Sick Podcast. Mets Magic with Jake Brown.
And it's in there, strike three called. The Mets win the pennant. The New York Mets have won the National League pennant. Put it in the books. The New York Mets, for the first time in 15 years, are champions of the National League.
The sickest New York Mets podcast. It's gonna be sick.
Welcome back to the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. I'm your host, Jake Brown, at Jake Brown Radio is where you can find me. If you're watching us on YouTube or you're not, subscribe, smash that thumbs up, smash that like button below, comment below what you think about what just happened with the rainouts, with the postponements, and with the rest of this Mets season at SickPodMets on Twitter. And of course, you can listen wherever you get podcasts. Give us that 5-star rating, write in a nice review. Anthony Rivera of Subway to Shea podcast will join me in a minute, but I need to vent here because I vented on Twitter, but I just need to let it out here. It'll be a nice therapy session. The Atlanta Braves in Major League Baseball screwed the New York Mets. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I'll preface it with this. Of course, it's a hurricane. You can't prepare for it. You can't plan for it. It wasn't fully known. People are saying, and the weather reports are saying till Monday that, how dramatic it might be. And we hope everyone dealing with it is okay. Everyone's homes, everyone's safe. Preface it with all that. That's the most important thing. We don't want to lose lives. We don't want people losing their homes. That is more important than baseball games. We 100% get that. But let me say this. They knew Monday. They knew Monday a storm was coming. All the radar showed Wednesday would be tough. There were slight windows, but probably not going to happen. And Thursday, there was no chance a game was going to happen. They knew no off days remained for the rest of the regular season. They knew this was the final week of the season. They knew that the playoffs started Tuesday. They knew that the only time to make up these games would potentially be a doubleheader Monday, less than 24 hours before a playoff game where they would have to travel to either San Diego, and if you are good at geography, that's across the country. That's in a different time zone. That's a long flight. That's a 5-6 hour flight. Or they would have to go up to Milwaukee. They knew that if there was any shot of rain Monday, the world blows up. There is no baseball. The playoffs are completely delayed, and there's complete and utter chaos. Still a possibility that can happen, by the way, if it does end up pouring on Monday. They might be playing into Tuesday and fly the same day out to San Diego. There's a possibility of pure and utter chaos. But what Major League Baseball and the Braves have already done is cause chaos. And I'm sorry to the Braves. And, go cry, go cry. You don't have to deal with anything. You're chilling. You're home. You're in Atlanta, and you play home this weekend against the Royals for 3. And if it comes back Monday, hey, you're home again. So the next time the Braves would have to travel would be on Tuesday or Monday night if they make the playoffs, which I really hope they freaking lose now. That's the only time they have to travel. This was gamesmanship. This was the Braves and Major League Baseball screwing over the richest owner in the sport in the New York Mets. And there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. The Mets got utterly screwed in this situation. There are multiple scenarios that could have played out. But the Braves had to worry about their attendance for one game. Tickets for those games, by the way, were going for like $10. So I don't want to hear Braves fans ever make fun of Mets fans not showing up Monday, Tuesday. Their fan base is not very good at showing up to games. Their tickets are dirt cheap for the final week. For a must-win series, you could sit in field level for $40, $50. So I don't want to hear this was about attendance and I want to move people around. It's a joke. If you didn't want to play Monday or if you weren't sure Monday that Wednesday was going to be ran out because you knew Thursday was. And I get Thursday and the naysayers saying the Mets had the option to play a doubleheader early in the season because Thursday was a makeup of a game in April. So both teams are at fault for that. But they could have got at least one more game in. And getting one more game in would have meant you might not have to return Monday and you can just head to the playoff location. For each team, they could have just headed out to San Diego or Milwaukee. Instead, they might not be done till 8, 9 p.m. Monday and then have to figure out where they're traveling, one of the two or both, if the Diamondbacks collapse this weekend. If they didn't know Monday, they could have did this. Doubleheader Tuesday. They could have announced Monday there will be a single admission, however they want to do it. You could have done separate tickets and then offered fans vouchers for next season. Very simple. A very simple solve that the freaking Braves could have done. But they want to screw over the Mets. Oh, but the Braves fans are saying the Mets are screwed because they're not facing Fried and Sale. Well, hey, our pitching, which has been some of the best in baseball the last couple of months, you aren't getting our big starters. You're now not going to have to face Manaea. You wanted to face Severino. Well, you already did, and you beat him on Tuesday in a game really, you wish the Mets would have won because it would have changed a lot of things. And you won't have to face Peterson, most likely. You're going to face Quintana and maybe McGill on Monday, which leaves me pulling my non-existent hair out. As good as they've been, I'm not exactly have all the confidence in the world that they're going to be incredible in a must-win game on Monday. So they got the better end of this. Yeah, I get Fried and Sale are Cy Young candidates, some of the best pitchers of baseball, but you're also not going to face our head honchos either. Could have played a doubleheader Tuesday. That was the simple solve. The solve was move up. Monday, neither team played. They sat in their hands in Atlanta, did some sightseeing, enjoyed the sights, went to the Coca-Cola Museum when they could have been playing a baseball game. You could have did one Monday, two Tuesday, and if you didn't want to play Monday or weren't sure Monday, you sure as hell knew Tuesday morning that Wednesday and Thursday likely weren't happening. Any weatherman could have told you that, which meant you should have played 2 on Tuesday. Utterly disgraceful by the Braves and by Major League Baseball and Rob Manfred, who, no shock he messes up. He's one of the worst commissioners, maybe the worst in the history of the sport. He didn't override the Braves and say, hey, I'm sorry, guys. Like, there's a hurricane coming. We got to get 2 in Tuesday because it's not fair to play a doubleheader the day before the season. 162-game season. 6+ months of baseball, and there will be 2 games less than 24 hours before a playoff game. That's embarrassing for the sport, and they can't push back now these playoff games because they've already had them on the schedule for months. They've already sold tickets for months for these other teams. They're screwed. Mind you, they have both NL wildcard games Tuesday. Why do they do that? Also, why not just have the game start Wednesday? You had a rush and do 2 days after the season. You were in no rush for 6 months. You had 162 games. They got to plan better for this. And I imagine next year moving forward, it'll change. The playoffs will start 3 days after the season. Because a Tuesday's a travel day and you're set. It's much easier. It's not easy going from coast to coast. And on top of that, 3 games in a row for the playoffs. Friday's the first off day. If the Mets were to win the wild card, they would have off. And really, you're going to be traveling anyway. It's just not fair. Meanwhile, the Braves are sitting home, relaxing, chilling. They get the Royals coming to town this weekend. God, I hope the Royals win. 2015, the Royals beat the Mets in the World Series. 2022, the Padres beat the Mets in the wild card. And in 2024, the Mets are hoping the Royals and Padres both win this weekend to help the Mets get in. But first, it starts with taking care of business. Bachman Turner Overdrive style Shea Stadium Mets Victory Anthem edition in Milwaukee, and the Mets beating the Brewers. Of course, I got my Homage shirt. Shout out to Homage. We love Homage. Always with the fresh gear, the Shea Stadium shirt. Always got to rock that homage gear. We got to pay homage to our guest who's been waiting. Sorry, Anthony. Yeah, that was 10-minute therapy. I don't know. That was a free session, but I'll let you take the floor here. I said what I needed to say. You're behind the scenes listening, but I would imagine you agree with me in some right. I had 150,000 views. I had Braves fans calling me dumb, dumbass, moron, homer, New Yorker. When they get to sit home and do nothing for the rest of the week and hang out and not have to hop on one flight amidst a hurricane. Mets got the short end of the stick here. Anthony Rivera, Subway to Shea, take it away.
150,000 views, 10 minutes on the weather. Who'd have thought it that we'd be talking about the weather? I mean, the Braves fans should actually kind of be on our sides for this. I mean, they should have played Monday at least one game, because if you're only playing one game to make up on that Monday, all fine and well, but it's a double header, which is rough. And we don't know if the Braves are going to be playing on Friday. I don't know what the weather outlook is for Friday, but it could be possible that they're also playing a double header this weekend against Kansas City. So that's not helpful either for them. And you kind of want to line up your rotation to get ready for the postseason. And if they would have had Chris Sale go yesterday, it might have been a little bit of a struggle to have him then have to come back on Monday in a game that's so important that if they're getting ready for the playoffs, they wouldn't have had that opportunity. I'm looking at the Fangraphs because Mets.com doesn't have it, but Fangraphs has the rotation right now, which most of the time they're pretty on, but they have Mania going on Friday, which makes sense. David Peterson Saturday, Luis Severino Sunday, and then the doubleheader would be Quintana McGill. Hopefully, by that point in time, the Mets are already in. They obviously hold the fate in their hands. And then you have for Atlanta, Sale, Fried, Schwellenbacher this weekend, Charlie Morton, Grant Holmes for the Monday doubleheader.
I think they're going to move more into Sunday and pitch Schwellenbach on Monday because of what he did to the Mets. That seems like the logical, because the Mets destroy Morton. If you're the Braves, you would not trust Morton. But I think also, and it depends maybe on what happens over the weekend, because if the Diamondbacks implode and Monday doesn't matter much, maybe they keep it as is.
Yeah, it all depends on what happens with Arizona and San Diego, because San Diego still has this opportunity to win the division, and they're going to play hard throughout that as well. So, and I don't know how many games back Arizona is from that top wild card spot, so they kind of going to want to keep Arizona off their tails as well.
3.5. The Mets and Diamondbacks are both 3.5 back.
Both play tonight, I think, too.
Yeah, the Diamondbacks play the Padres this weekend. The Diamondbacks are actually off, so they only have the Diamondbacks are out for the top seed, I believe, because they play 3 this weekend.
Okay.
If I have it correctly here, the 3.5 back, but they only have 3 left. So I don't think they lead the tiebreaker over the Padres. I have to double check that, but the Padres play 1 tonight against the Dodgers. Essentially, the Mets badly need the Padres to beat the Dodgers so the games matter for them this week, because the Padres beat the Dodgers. They are alive for the division because they lead the tiebreaker over the Dodgers. Now, the Dodgers play the Rockies this weekend, so they would need Mike Toglia to start hitting home runs, and we need upset city. They would the Padres would have to sweep. The Dodgers would have to lose 2 to the Rockies in order for the Padres to win the division, but they will be in it. So they'll be going balls to the wall this weekend. And the Mets and Braves are still in it for that top wild card spot because the Mets lead it. So they're going to have to try. Now, if they lose tonight, that changes a lot of scenarios. They're done for the division pretty much. They are done. They'd be 4 out to the Dodgers to clinch the division. So we're rooting for the Padres. We're rooting for the Padres this weekend. We're rooting for the Royals this weekend over the Braves. And, we're hoping for a miracle. The Diamondbacks really need to implode here. And the first matter of business, is that the Mets take care of business over the Brewers. We keep looking at all these scenarios. None of this is possible if the Mets don't beat the Brewers.
Yeah, currently their rotation is slated as Frankie Montas game 1, Colin Ray in game 2, and then Tobias Myers in game 3. The Mets really need to take care of business. Everyone says, well, maybe Milwaukee, since they already clinched their division and now that they're out of seeding, maybe they'll just take it easy. Milwaukee has been just as horrific to play at as Atlanta over the last couple of years. So the Mets really need to show their resilience like they have shown all year and show that they are not just another, number in the book as the 2022 Mets were. You could even go in past years. They have to overcome these teams like they struggled against the Braves the other night. I mean, we were all on a high Sunday after the taking care of business against the Phillies 3 out of 4. You were there Saturday, Sunday. I was there Saturday. The stadium was electric. They don't have that 10th man. They're going to have to do this on the road the right way. And I think they have struggled against teams above 500 for most of the season. This is going to be a tough task, but they're going to have to figure out a way to pull through. I mean, this is their opportunity. They really don't need to worry about, oh, well, the Braves win this or Arizona needs this. They have to take care of their business this weekend. And if they do that, they'll be fine.
And everyone's talking about how the pitching matchups, if they go on 3 days rest, the Braves in the playoffs, if they get in, can throw Sale and Freed game 1 and 2. Like, they could have their head horses start the playoffs. The Mets, a little bit of a different boat. They can go Manaea 3 days rest for game. Honestly, you're probably going to have to. I think this is the playoffs. You got to go balls to the wall. If the Mets were to get in, you probably have to go Manaea 3 days rest, Peterson 3 days rest, Severino 3 days rest, and then Thursday you get the off day. But it screws everyone, this scenario. And the quick fix was, at the very least, if Monday came around and you didn't want to be like, all right, let's get everyone, the workers, to the ballpark Monday, you easily Monday could have said, hey, ticket holders for either Wednesday, whatever it is, Thursday, you could say, we're going to grant your tickets for Monday in a split admission double. They could have done that. They could have said, all right, first game 4 o'clock, second game 8 o'clock, first game whatever, 3 o'clock, second game 8 o'clock. If you wanted to get your tickets for both games and still honor it, yeah, you might have lost attendance during the day game, but people would have still shown up at night. You still would have got people. Now I think they're going to have a little trouble in a doubleheader on a Monday. I know it's last game of the season, and you would think like great fans are going to show up. People have families, they have children. They can't accommodate last second on a Monday to go. They could have still got their 2 games of tickets. So they really screwed themselves over worrying about moving people and workers' schedules. I mean, this has been done before. Like, this isn't something new and nuanced. Neutral site, I get it would have been tough because you would have to figure out, all right, I tweeted about Miami, but coming back from the storm in Miami could have been tough. You're going in the eye of the storm. Could have went to maybe Houston. Maybe you go early to Milwaukee. There's different places, but then Atlanta would have had to got back. So they really didn't want to move at all. They didn't want to screw themselves, but I really thought they wouldn't be hurt that much. And if they just said doubleheader Tuesday was the logical move, if they were unsure about the weather Monday. That's my thought about this, is getting one more game in would have changed everything. And if the Braves won, oh my, it would have been even more. I mean, they would have been tied with the Mets at that point, and they would have won the tiebreaker. So in some ways, maybe that does hurt the Mets. The Mets lose out in the tiebreaker immediately in that scenario. But I think I would have rather a second game to get in, and then your hope is you split that and you get a win, and you're still up a game.
Yeah. The MLB has really kind of messed this up, knowing in advance the weather pattern and what was going to be happening. Knowing that we had that extra day off on Monday is a problem. And the fact that even 100 years later, 50 years later, every stadium is not required to have some type of roof. This is like Atlanta's 3rd stadium in how many years now? Maybe in the last decade and a half. Like, they've been at Turner Field and the renovations at Turner Field, and now this Truist Park. MLB, this is a big problem for MLB, that they have not figured out how to work around weather. maybe the fans wouldn't have been able to come anyway because of the storm was so bad. But this too also falls on the Mets for, the way they had played at the beginning of the year, digging themselves into a hole, fighting for a wild card spot. This is what happens with wild card teams. If you were winning the division, you're already able to set up your rotation the way you want, not having to worry about it. But now that you're fighting for the wild card, this is what happens. And this is the advantage they take away from wild card teams. Is like, oh, you're not going to be able to have the rotation the way you want it because you're fighting until the end, right? That's been the problem when there was only 4 teams getting in, and the wild card team somehow was able to get over these teams that won the division. This is why they're taking away all these things from wild card teams.
I agree with that, but this team wasn't supposed to be here. I mean, this is the 30 for 30 special. This is a special team, and even beginning of the year, our thought was 85 wins. They've already exceeded that. There's nobody who thought coming into the season this was a 90-win team. Nobody. And if the biggest optimist in the world would be crazy to say this going into the season, even after JD Martinez 90 win. I said the highest would be 86, and they're at 87. So they peaked that, and they should be able to get to 90 if they play well enough this weekend. And if they have to play Monday, this is a 90-win team. They exceed our expectations. Memorial Day, we thought they were dead in the water. We thought this season was over. So what has happened since May 30th, as the Mets have had the best record in baseball, is nothing short of spectacular. But if they get screwed now because of one little scheduling, and then they go to the wild card round and they're basically dead because they've been traveling to 4 different time zones. They can't have the rotation lineup. That's what frustrates me, is that if they do still end up getting in, which I believe they will, and I think they do, is that now it's utter chaos of this guy can't throw in 3 days rest. It leads to potential injuries. Another layer was Senga not being able to come back. I mean, how crazy does that look right now? Because Senga, if he wasn't ready for the regular season, is he ready for a makeup game on Monday? Like, does an extra day maybe help him come back? That's another layer of this. But that's what pisses me off more, Ann. And I agree with you. You win a couple games here and there. We're not worried about this situation as much. But this team fought to get here, and they were not supposed to get here. And they've been the best story right there with the Detroit Tigers, the 2 best stories in baseball. And for them to get the short end of the stick because of a decision by Major League Baseball and the Braves to not play an extra game, it's just very frustrating.
I'll say this. Let's say Manaea, and let's say the Mets win game 1 with Manaea, and they take game 2 with Peterson, and that clinches up a playoff spot, right? They only need to win the 2 games, or is that out of the picture now?
It all depends what happens with the Diamondbacks. If they win 2 out of 3 and the Diamondbacks lose 2 out of 3, I believe they are in.
So let's say that scenario plays out just as that, right? They win the first 2 games. Arizona loses the first 2 games against San Diego. This is my thought. They're already in the playoffs. Now, Luis Severino doesn't pitch on Sunday. Luis Severino takes game 1, gives Sean Manaea an extra day of rest. You either make that game a bullpen game, or you have Jose Butto pitch and give him a couple of innings. They have to figure out a way to allow Manaea to get the extra day of rest and have Severino pitch on that. That's the only thing I can think of, because you can't have. And also, Jose Quintana has been pushed back now so many games. So maybe he slots in then on the Sunday.
Here's an intriguing scenario. First off, the Braves lead the tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks. The Braves now lead the tiebreaker over the Mets. The Mets lead the tiebreaker over the Diamondbacks and Padres. So, if the Mets take 2 out of 3, they are at 89 wins. If the Diamondbacks lose 2 out of 3, they're also at 89 wins. That would secure the Mets are in. Now, the Braves, it's going to depend what they do, because they might have to win to still get in. So these games Monday might matter for the Braves. And if that's the case, yes, I agree with you. Go with the Butto, go with an opener. Don't blow your arm. Like, save Manaea, save Severino for those playoff games. But like, it's just the scenarios trying to do them is just I'm getting a headache, and this could have been avoided if they played the game.
Yeah.
All right, I'm done crying about the rainouts because listen, the hurricane did happen, and I think I think it could have been handled better, but it was up to the wire, and they didn't make a decision, and it's over with now. And now the boys just got to take care of business. The ideal situation is sweep. You sweep, you're in good hands. The Padres have got to help the Mets and win at least one game. The Diamondbacks cannot sweep the Padres. These games are in Arizona. I assume that place will be rocking. I know they don't do great attendance-wise, but I assume there'll be a good crowds there for those games. We really need the Padres to win tonight so they have reason to win over the weekend, because if they lose, pretty much they're set for the top seed, barring them getting swept and the Mets sweeping. That is another interesting layer of this, is if the Mets sweep, Padres get swept, the Mets might have to go Monday just because they might have a shot for the 1 seed. So there's that layer of this too, Ant. Like, if the Padres lose their next 4 games and the Mets win the next 3, the Mets are going to have to play those games Monday because they'll have a shot to have Tuesday at Citi Field. I mean, after all this, and listen, it's probably not going to happen, but if the Diamondbacks are playing balls to the wall, if the Padres are playing, to rest guys, we'll see. I mean, if they still have a thing to play for, I'm sure they won't be resting guys. But listen, anything happens in baseball, the Diamondbacks can sweep the Padres. And there is a chance that the Mets return home at Citi Field after all this, which is another funny layer. There's a lot of this is an onion, Ant, and the Mets could still travel to LA if the Padres, end up winning the division. They could travel to San Diego. They could travel to Milwaukee. Like, this is wild how many scenarios play out, and it's stressful for them, and the air miles are going to be racked up. It's going to be interesting.
Yeah, that's why it's the wild card. But this is why the Mets needed to get the tie break against both the Padres and the Arizona Diamondbacks. They still have the opportunity to do it against the Braves as well. But this only shows that the only really way for the Mets not to make the postseason is their own undoing. Like, if they lose out here, they're the only ones to blame for this. Every route shows that the Mets are making the postseason, unless they just completely lose out here and have that little funk at the end of the year like they had showed in 1998 or they showed in 2022. Like, they're their own worst enemy if they lose here. You can't count on any of the other teams. They're just, all these other scenarios basically help the Mets. So take care of business here in Milwaukee, and the worst thing possible is to worry about who's going to be playing game 1 in the wild card or who's pitching game 2. That's it. You're muted.
It's been a long week. The Royals.
That's how upset you are.
I'm living
about
in
this.
Cherry freaking Hill, New Jersey. I'm in Guam down here in South Jersey. So you seen the backdrop. I still have the things on the desk. So you could put imaginary. I haven't reconfigured. The Mets could play here, right here, on Tuesday. They could be home. It's not going to
Tickets
happen.
on sale now.
Oh, freaking freaker. I forgot to put a notification in my damn phone about that. Oh, no. Should we check live if there's any tickets? Should I get tickets live on Mets Magic?
I only checked for the division series.
Well, yeah.
And they were $167 to $175 and more.
They did it again.
In the 500s.
They did this again, and it came back to bite them because they were having trouble selling tickets. They start these prices at insane numbers to get in the building.
And as you know, I'm a ticket plan holder already. I could not afford the paying for everything at once, and it cost more than my season tickets. So
what was the face value for you? Oh, well, you had to. Was it one?
I don't even know. They didn't. They did not. They posted it as a full price of you paying for all the tickets. There was not. You don't find that out, I think, until after you pay for them of how much each ticket were.
You didn't get any ones for the playoffs yet, or you did?
No. Because it was buy everything at once or nothing. So I was like, I guess I'll just leave this out.
These prices are nuts. And I think they'll get swooped up if the Mets end up winning a few this weekend. But
Yeah, I think so too. I don't think it's going to be like 2022 where I had bought, I think, like an $80 or $90 ticket and then found out later on that they were only like $10 or $15 night of.
this is why you always do the Jake Brown approach and get them there. Like, I just can't commit to get it because one, they would have to win the wild card round. Two, they got to get there. Three,
Yep.
they got to get in the playoffs. Period. So
I might have to sit with you, so you might have to purchase my ticket.
Yeah. I mean, I might have to get a single, but yeah, I would go with you. But this is they did this again. I thought they might learn their lesson and lower it. So I mean, listen, 171, it's playoffs. You get it's going to be more, but I thought they would have started at like 110, maybe 171's a little. But again, they might get screwed with it. But I think a lot of people are just waiting it out. So I'm not going to get them yet, but they do still have. I'm looking at all the games.
Well, they don't even tell you the seats either. They tell you the section, but you don't know what seats you're sitting
Really?
at.
So the wild card round's 92, but there's plenty available for that because
It's not happening. Most likely, unless the San Diego scenario where they get swept and the Mets sweep, it's not happening.
Yeah, that's just basically almost throwing your money away. But wild card 92. So that's probably why they're doing cheaper because they're like, yeah, this is probably not happening. Let's get your money. We'll refund you, but we'll send you 1,000 emails in the off season. So it begins this weekend. Go to Milwaukee. Win. Your hope is they throw their guys 4 innings and they have some backups playing and they're not playing. But, the naysayers will say the Mets are playing on their toes Tuesday. They look like a team that was a little nervous, that wasn't ready for the moment. And, of course, believe me, I was mad Tuesday they lost, but I wasn't like the sky is falling. Well, then the sky fell and Hurricane Helene, whatever her name is, came swooping away. So that's why, yes, it was big, but it was one game. And everyone said season over because of one game. Well, if it ends up being over, it means that they lost in Milwaukee to a team has a better record than them. But I'm sorry, the Mets, in my opinion, are a better team than they are. The Brewers got off to a better start. The Mets got off to the bad start. They had the bad May. But I think the Mets are a better team than the Milwaukee Brewers, and they need to show it. And a sweep would really be ideal. If you win one game, you are putting yourself in if they lose 2 out of 3, it's pretty much a lock that they will have to play Monday and have to win both on Monday.
Yeah.
So 2 out of 3 puts you in a good spot. That gets you to 89. D-backs win 2 out of 3. They're at 90. So, the Royals could really help in this situation where there's a shot that if the Royals just crush the Braves, and the Royals are a very good team.
They're playing for a spot as well in the wild card, right?
And that's the other element. The Royals are playing right now. They are playing the Nationals. So the Royals really need to lose. The Nationals Patrick Corbin has got to do the Mets a favor today, which he doesn't do many favors for anyone unless you're betting on whoever's hitting against him. But he does have those moments where he pitches 6 shutout innings out of nowhere and looks like the old Patrick Corbin. They need the Royals to lose so these games really, really matter because if they win, they're pretty much almost a lock. The Twins have been playing like a team that wants no part of the playoffs. The Royals have been playing similar, 3-7 of the last 10. The Tigers have been, next to the Mets, the best story in baseball. They look like a strong chance to get in if they could win 1 or 2 more. They're hot right now. But these games got to mean something to the Royals. Twins are 2 out. Mariners 2.5 out. The Mariners have 3 games left. The Twins have 4 left. And the Twins will also play today against the Marlins. So, a lot of scenarios, Ant, but we're setting ourselves for a fun playoff run. I'm excited for this weekend. Gun to your head, what do you think happens here? What scenario do you think happens? Where do the Mets end up?
I think they're going to make it to the postseason. I would like them to gain a little momentum going into the postseason, unlike what happened in 2022, where the life was kind of sucked out of them in that Atlanta series the weekend before the playoffs started. So I would like them to have a little bit of momentum here and good vibes like they've had all season, be resilient and all that stuff. And, we talked about all the negativity and all the bad stuff that is happening because of this whole weather situation. But I think the biggest positive here is that Francisco Lindor is getting 2 extra days to rest. And now he's going to be coming back on Friday. And I think that's a big thing. As much as I like Luis Angel Acuna playing, and as well he's played for us and done everything we've needed him to do, you need Francisco Lindor for this weekend. You need him for those 2 games in Atlanta. You need your leader. You need your MVP back so that this team gets focused and is ready to play with his leadership at the top.
Yeah, that was interesting with him on deck at the final batter. It was like, all right, it looks like he might be back. And your hope he survives through this weekend and he could play the field. It's going to be intriguing. Do they DH Francisco Lindor? With the way JD Martinez has been struggling, do you DH Lindor? Do you start Acuna still? Do you start Iglesias at shortstop? What do you do defensive wise? You have Winker and JD, so it's a tough sell to not be playing Lindor at short plus his defense. But Acuna's been good enough defensively too. It's going to be very, very interesting. I think there's a shot you're going to have to DH him to keep him fresh and just hope that he hits and then goes back into the dugout and runs the bases, because it is a lot of wear and tear on your back standing out there for 9 innings, for sliding or diving for a ball, for going after a ball, for hunching over to scoop a ball. Like, there's a lot of wear and tear on his back that could be saved for game 1 of the playoffs or even Monday. So that's going to be another storyline to watch. But you're right. Extra 2 days for Lindor, extra injections, extra icy hots, whatever damn treatment that back needs. They need that, man. He's carried them here, and they're going to need him. They're going to need Pete Alonso. I mean, we keep saying this. I just don't expect it anymore. But, Alonso got his ovation, whether you believe it was, deserving or not. I think he probably deserved it for his time here. Pete Alonso got to show up. I mean, we've said it over and over, but you can't just rely on a banged up Francisco Lindor. You can't hope that Mark Vientos is going to, carry the team. You can't hope Acuna is going to stay hot if he even plays. Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo's gotten hot. Nimmo's done his job. Pete's got to do his, because he has been tough to watch outside of a game or two against the horrible Nationals. He's got to hit a couple big homers in Milwaukee.
Yeah, Pete had that like one game against Washington where he got like 5 RBIs, and we're like, oh man, here we go. We're going to get that final week of Pete. And then he kind of, tailed right back into, his self for this year, that he's been not helpful with runners in scoring position. We got 3 righties going up. It would have been a little bit different with Fried and Sale going up, that JD Martinez would have gotten some play those 2 games. I think that's now kind of out of the question. Maybe he pinch hits at some point in a big spot or something like that, if they'll try that. I think you got to play one. You have to play your best outfield possible. And to me, that is Nimmo, Bader, Tyrone Taylor. I can't watch Starling Marte play right field in big spots. I mean, the guy can't cover any ground. You watched it in Atlanta. I mean, I know he has the arm and everything, but man, the guy can't cover any ground anymore. I can't have him in the outfield.
But do you worry about losing his bat a little bit here? I know Taylor has had his moments at the plate, has been solid. Bader is
him
hit
if
or
that's
miss.
the case. I mean, so Jesse Winker has been struggling this month. He's had an awful September. And what is it that we're missing with Starling Marte's bat? It's another if. Can he recreate what his bat from 2022? And
so
who
do you play at DH? Who's your DH this weekend?
Well, against the lefty, it would have against the righty, it would probably have to be Jesse Winker right now.
All right, despite his struggle, and then versus the lefty, I'd see Marte probably playing the field at least one of these games. Taylor playing one, and then we'll see, because they got to find a way. I think this is crunch time too, and when you think of crunch time and big games, you think of JD Martinez. You think of a guy who's been there before. So he's been horrible lately. He's been bad, but crunch time, a few days off. Maybe JD finds something this weekend. Maybe he's watched enough tape, or maybe he's just done. It's clear JD Martinez won't be back with the Mets, but his swan song here, I would love to see him go out with a few clutch hits. Like, there's so many different scenarios, and Carlos Mendoza's pushed a lot of the right buttons this season. He's right there against his co-manager of the year this weekend. It's Murphy, it's Mendoza, M&M's, the 2 leaders for manager of the year will go up against each other. And we might find out if Mendoza wins that award this weekend. Like, there are moves, buttons he's got to push, relievers got to put in, starters got to leave out, that will determine potentially the Mets season. And this is where we find out if this rookie manager, has cojones. I think he's the right guy. He's had a good year, but it's time to go out on top and send this team into October. This story's been fun. It's been good. But all the fun, all the OMG, the remix coming out first week of October won't be streamed that much. This team is not playing in October.
Yeah, and if you don't make the postseason, it's kind of hard to recreate that. Like you got to start like that. OMG's gone, right? Izzy Glizzy's gone, Rally Pimp is gone, and you got to like start new. Grimace is gone, like so you have to start something new. Like they've just bounced off all like Mojo Rising in '99, right? 2006 they had their thing. Like every year has its thing. And once you don't finish and get to the end of the finish line, it's kind of like that juice is gone and you got to create and start new stuff. So I don't even want to even look into the future of how this team will look. But you kind of want, when you get these opportunities, you kind of want to capitalize on them. And that's what's going to happen this weekend. I think Mendy's up for the challenge. If it works, if it doesn't work, I mean, obviously the roster, it takes part in them not playing well. Whether it's, Marte or JD Martinez, Winker, even Bader, like a lot of these guys that have been so complementary and component players have kind of like fizzled in September. Like I don't even remember the last time Bader started. Do you? Because I haven't seen much of Bader. I haven't some of like, obviously you don't want to see Adam Ottavino either. And some of these relievers, but like, Jose Budo I saw for the first time on Sunday, and I was like, man, where has he been for the last couple of weeks?
Yeah, Bader has been inconsistent, but there's going to be a lot of key decisions to make. It's Mets fans for Padres this weekend. It's Mets fans for Royals this weekend, because while the Mets have to get the job done, and they could sweep all they want. If the Diamondbacks sweep, they have 91 wins. The Mets have 90. So they would still be short of a playoff spot. The Royals, really, if you can really just sweep the Braves, we would thank you. We would forgive you for 2015 in some ways. If you could just sweep the Braves, Mets sweep, and then they don't. The ideal situation is not even having to go to Atlanta Monday, because then the Mets can either fly from Milwaukee to San Diego or stay in Milwaukee.
Stay in Milwaukee.
Yeah, or honestly, stay in Milwaukee. So that's the ideal thing. But just get some help, win some games. He's Anthony Rivera, Subway to Shade Podcast, Ant Rivera 86 on Twitter. And thanks for coming on with us here on the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. If you're watching, smash that thumbs up, comment below, follow us at Jake Brown Radio, at Sick Pod Mets. And, next time we'll be back, we'll be hopefully for the playoffs. We'll wait to see after that Brave series, but fingers crossed, Ant. I mean, this season's been too fun, and for it to end in the regular season, it just doesn't feel right. And it would be, the hatred for the Braves would just be so much more than it already is. If they screwed us with the schedule and then they knock us out on Monday, I don't even want to think of those thoughts because it gives me a headache. Ant Rivera, thanks for coming on. You've been watching and listening to the Sick Podcast, Mets Magic. We'll catch you next time, and let's go Mets.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Mets Magic on YouTube, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.